Welcome back to the channel. Welcome here to Abek, Afghanistan. I'm ready to leave, but before I leave Abek, I'm going to visit one place, which is actually the whole reason why I came to this town.
With over 2.8 million subscribers on YouTube, Noraly Schoenmaker has transformed her passion for motorcycle exploration into a global travel sensation, traversing more than 50 countries and accumulating over 160,000 kilometers on her journey. Despite her channel's meteoric rise, behind this success lies a deeply challenging experience. Behind the viral views, the crashes, the bike swaps, and that brutal South America accident, there's a story powered by pain, betrayal, and survival. And trust me, the real truth only hits at the very end. The real reason she started riding. Behind Noraly Schoenmaker's now famous motorcycle journeys sat a deeply personal turning point that slowly reshaped an entire life. And people who later discovered the calm confidence in the videos often had no idea how much pain existed at the beginning. Back in 2018, life looked steady and complete from the outside, almost like a checklist had been perfectly followed. Noraly worked as a geologist in the Netherlands, held a stable job, owned a home, and shared daily life with a partner. Many would have looked at that situation and quietly thought, what more could anyone want? Yet everything collapsed in a single moment when Noraly discovered that the partner living under the same roof had been involved in a long-term affair. That discovery shattered trust, security, and any sense of safety, leaving Noraly not only heartbroken, but suddenly without a place to call home. Faced with that reality, a question quietly formed. What happens when the life that was carefully built no longer feels real? Instead of retreating or trying to patch together something that already felt broken, Noraly made a decision that surprised almost everyone. The professional career was left behind, the house was sold, and almost every possession was let go. With no job, no home, and no relationship tying anything down, a one-way ticket to India was purchased. This was not framed as a vacation or a break, but as a full reset, a clean cut from a life that no longer felt survivable at a personal level. The emotional weight of betrayal created a powerful need to escape, not just across borders, but away from constant reminders of what had been lost. At first, the plan was practical and hopeful. Noraly intended to backpack through India while supporting travel through blogging and writing. That idea, however, quickly fell apart when the stories did not sell and money began to run dangerously low. Cold nights, hunger, fear, and loneliness became regular companions, and those moments looked nothing like the bright optimism later seen on camera. During that time, survival took priority over reflection, and that shift mattered more than it may appear. Instead of endlessly replaying the breakup and the betrayal, attention moved toward finding food, warmth, safety, and direction. A quiet question lingered through those difficult days. How does someone rebuild when everything familiar has disappeared? Motorcycles slowly became the unexpected answer. Riding was not new to Noraly. Back in the Netherlands, a Ducati Monster 796 had already held a special place, described with clear affection and excitement. That love for riding resurfaced during the time in India when a Royal Enfield Himalayan was rented for 3 weeks. That short period changed everything. Noraly later explained that riding that bike felt so right that returning it caused real sadness. And in that moment, a new idea took root. Why not buy a motorcycle in India and ride towards Southeast Asia? That thought marked the beginning of something far bigger than a travel plan. The motorcycle offered a sense of freedom that had been missing for a long time. On the road, there was no past relationship, no career expectations, and no fixed future demanding answers. There was only the next stretch of road, the next turn, and the simple act of moving forward. Behind the handlebars, Noraly described feeling alive in a way that felt honest and grounding. The bike felt nimble enough for narrow paths and strong enough for long roads that stretched endlessly ahead. Riding created focus and presence, replacing emotional noise with clarity. Fear turned into alertness. Loneliness softened into independence. Uncertainty became possibility. What started as a way to escape pain slowly transformed into a source of strength, confidence, and direction. Over time, filming rides and sharing experiences turned into something bigger than expected. The channel didn't grow because every video was perfect or every story polished. It grew because the journey felt real. Viewers could sense the quiet resilience behind each mile, the unfiltered moments that showed determination, doubt, and triumph all tangled together. People didn't just watch. They connected, rooting for someone who faced challenges head-on, who stumbled, got back up, and kept moving forward. And that connection turned a simple story into inspiration for millions around the world. Every clip, every moment mattered, and the story only gets deeper from here. Stick around, because the journey that inspired millions isn't finished yet, and you won't want to miss a single moment. The journey that inspired millions. A long and steady journey unfolded over time as Noraly Schoenmaker transformed what started as a simple travel blog into something far bigger than anyone could have predicted. And the explanation shared across interviews described 5 full years spent on the road, creating more than 600 episodes while crossing over 60 countries on a motorcycle. Many people paused and wondered how a single person could sustain that level of effort for so long without losing direction or motivation. The answer, according to Noraly Schoenmaker, rested in discipline, curiosity, and an almost stubborn commitment to documenting real experiences as honestly as possible. The project slowly grew into a global phenomenon, and the name Itchy Boots became familiar across continents, especially within the motorcycling world, where Noraly Schoenmaker came to be recognized as one of the most visible and trusted figures. Growth did not happen overnight, and early explanations pointed out that the YouTube channel reached around 300,000 subscribers within 1 year, a number that already felt overwhelming at the time. Today, that same channel stands at more than 2.7 million subscribers with over 618 million total views, numbers that still feel unreal when placed beside the humble beginning of one camera, one bike, and one person navigating unfamiliar roads. How did such rapid growth happen without a big production team or polished studio setup? Noraly Schoenmaker explained that dedication played a major role, especially the countless hours spent editing every single episode alone on a laptop, often choosing work over time with family and friends. The admission carried a quiet honesty, acknowledging that the process could feel lonely, but also emphasizing that consistency and quality mattered more than comfort. That dedication slowly turned Itchy Boots into a recognizable global brand, rather than just another travel channel. Challenges appeared constantly along the way, and Noraly Schoenmaker never hid those moments. One of the most frightening experiences occurred in Iraq, when a morning routine turned into a shock that still lingered in memory. After breakfast, a walk toward the parked motorcycle revealed only a cover lying on the ground, while the motorcycle itself had vanished. That moment introduced fear, confusion, and a sudden feeling of vulnerability in a foreign place. Questions naturally surfaced. What happens next when a motorcycle disappears thousands of miles from home? How does a journey continue after trust feels broken? Noraly Schoenmaker explained that resilience mattered more than panic, and even though recovery took time, the experience reinforced the unpredictable nature of long-distance travel. Mechanical problems added another layer of stress, with stories involving severed wiring, broken parts, and sudden failures occurring far from proper repair shops. Each breakdown forced improvisation, patience, and problem-solving under pressure. Border crossings created yet another recurring obstacle, often bringing tension and uncertainty that could not be controlled. The most serious consequence of these issues appeared when a planned book tour in the United States had to be canceled. Immigration concerns raised fears of detention or deportation, leading Noraly Schoenmaker to explain that traveling to the U.S. did not feel safe at that time. That decision disappointed many supporters, but highlighted a reality rarely discussed in travel content, namely that borders, paperwork, and politics can suddenly stop even the most carefully planned journeys. Connection with a global audience did not come from flawless filming or perfect storytelling. Instead, Noraly Schoenmaker described a love for random places far from famous tourist spots, choosing villages, back roads, and overlooked regions that rarely appear in glossy travel guides. This approach created stories that felt raw and real, rather than staged. Why chase crowded landmarks when everyday life in quiet places offers deeper insight into cultures and people? That question shaped the entire philosophy behind Itchy Boots. Noraly Schoenmaker also openly accepted imperfections in the creative process, explaining that many videos were released despite visible mistakes, rough edits, or moments that did not meet personal standards. Rather than waiting for perfection, progress mattered more. The idea was simple: do better next time. This mindset resonated strongly with people around the world who recognized similar struggles in personal goals, work, and daily life. Mistakes did not signal failure. Mistakes signaled learning. That honesty removed distance between creator and audience and helped form what many described as an Itchy Boots family, a community built on shared curiosity, respect, and encouragement, rather than polished illusion. Over time, the scale of the journey became difficult to grasp. More than 60 countries passed under motorcycle tires, each carrying different rules, landscapes, languages, and risks. 5 years of constant movement required mental strength as much as physical endurance. How does someone stay grounded while constantly changing locations? Noraly Schoenmaker explained that routine came from filming, editing, and storytelling, creating a sense of home within the process itself rather than in any single place. The motorcycle became both transport and companion, while the camera served as witness to moments of fear, joy, frustration, and awe. Each episode captured not just destinations, but emotional shifts, making the content feel personal without becoming performative. That balance helped maintain trust, which remained essential as the audience continued to grow into the millions. Recognition followed naturally, but Noraly Schoenmaker often framed success as a byproduct rather than a goal. The original intention focused on sharing experiences honestly, and fame arrived later as a consequence of consistency and sincerity. Many wondered whether pressure increased as subscriber numbers climbed. The explanation pointed toward responsibility rather than pressure, with an awareness that millions now followed each decision, route, and message. This awareness encouraged even more care in storytelling, especially when navigating sensitive regions or complex cultural situations. Respect remained central, both toward local communities and toward the audience watching from afar. Despite the scale of success, the journey remained grounded in simplicity. A motorcycle, a camera, a laptop, and an open road still formed the foundation. That simplicity continued to attract people who felt overwhelmed by highly produced content elsewhere. The appeal lay in seeing challenges handled in real time rather than hidden behind edits. Breakdowns stayed in the story. Fear stayed in the story. Uncertainty stayed in the story. And through it all, Noraly Schoenmaker stayed remarkably steady. Her tone curious instead of judgmental, her actions cautious rather than reckless, and her reflections thoughtful rather than dramatic. Every discovery, every twist in the investigation seemed to pull her deeper into the story, yet she never lost her composure. Never let panic or spectacle take over. Her perspective became a compass for everyone following the case, guiding us through chaos with clarity and insight. And then came the moment that would change everything, the crash itself. Stick with me and watch until the very end, because what unfolds next is shocking, unforgettable, and utterly transformative. The crash that changed everything. Noraly's inspiring adventure took an unexpected and devastating turn, creating one of the most challenging chapters in her journey and testing both physical endurance and mental strength in ways few could imagine. During a remote expedition through South America, an accident occurred that left her stranded far from civilization, forcing a confrontation with pain, isolation, and uncertainty. Why would such a crash be so life-altering? Officials and medical reports explained that the location's extreme remoteness made access to proper medical care nearly impossible, turning what might have been a recoverable injury in a well-equipped city into a prolonged ordeal filled with risk. After an agonizing period of waiting and struggling through harsh conditions, proper medical attention was finally reached, revealing injuries severe enough to halt all progress on the journey. The most critical injuries included a broken collarbone that required surgery and a punctured lung caused by a loose bone fragment during or after the procedure, which created further complications and a long recovery period. How could an accident in a moment of adventure cause such lasting physical challenges? Doctors noted that the combination of skeletal damage and pulmonary issues not only required surgical intervention, but also demanded extensive rehabilitation to restore lung function and mobility, with lingering effects that complicated basic movements for months. The impact extended far beyond physical pain. Medical teams and observers highlighted that the psychological consequences of such a traumatic event could be just as significant, often affecting confidence, motivation, and professional identity. Noraly's travel career, once active and thriving, came to an immediate halt, leaving followers and supporters to wonder whether a return to long-distance motorcycle travel was even possible. What happens when someone who has built a life around adventure suddenly faces a pause with no clear end? Analysts of extreme sports and high-risk professions explained that accidents like these can create mental barriers as powerful as physical ones, forcing individuals to confront fear, hesitation, and uncertainty, in addition to tangible injuries. Recovery became not just a matter of rebuilding strength, but also of rebuilding trust in the body's ability to perform under extreme conditions. Months of rehabilitation were necessary, involving physical therapy, cardiovascular training, and repeated exercises designed to restore coordination and balance for long-distance riding. Observers remarked that this process was grueling, requiring patience, discipline, and a resilience of spirit that many never had to summon in their daily lives. Medical teams emphasized that persistent lung function issues were a major challenge throughout recovery, shaping every stage of Noraly's healing. How does someone regain stamina and confidence after a lung collapse? Specialists explained that breathing exercises, careful monitoring, and gradual exposure to physical stress were essential to avoid setbacks. Every mile of prior experience as a rider had to be reevaluated, and every skill that had once felt second nature required careful retraining. The broken collarbone, along with lingering effects on the shoulder and chest, meant that handling a motorcycle over long distances had to be relearned from the ground up, with attention to posture, control, and endurance. Experts noted that such rehabilitation often takes months, and the road to full recovery can be as mentally demanding as it is physically demanding. The accident also raised questions about identity and purpose. How does someone whose life revolves around adventure cope when that adventure is abruptly interrupted? Psychological insights suggested that a temporary loss of confidence is natural, especially when an individual faces both visible injuries and hidden vulnerabilities. The recovery journey became as much about mental preparation as physical healing, requiring visualization of successful rides, trust in repaired strength, and confronting fear in controlled environments before attempting long distances again. Observers remarked that regaining confidence after a traumatic crash is a slow and sometimes frustrating process, with small setbacks capable of shaking progress. Yet, Noraly's story demonstrated that persistence, structured rehabilitation, and gradual re-exposure to familiar challenges could rebuild not only the body, but also the mindset needed for high-risk, high-skill pursuits. Throughout the months of recovery, Noraly's journey became an example of determination in the face of adversity. Medical professionals highlighted the significance of addressing both immediate trauma and long-term consequences, emphasizing that every step from surgical recovery to endurance rebuilding shaped the potential for a future return to adventure. Could a career built on fearless exploration survive such a crash? Observers noted that while the road was uncertain, structured rehabilitation, mental training, and a methodical approach to physical recovery increased the chances of resuming long-distance travel. Fans and supporters followed her progress with curiosity and concern, witnessing not just a story of injury, but a story of resilience, patience, and dedication to reclaiming a life interrupted by circumstance. This chapter of Noraly's life underscored a broader reality about high-risk pursuits. Accidents can happen anywhere, even to the most experienced and careful adventurers, and recovery requires far more than medical treatment alone. Physical injuries like broken bones and lung trauma must be addressed carefully, but psychological hurdles, fear, and diminished confidence can define the pace of recovery just as much as medical challenges. How can someone overcome the fear of repeating an accident that caused such trauma? Experts explained that deliberate practice, exposure in controlled settings, and confidence-building routines are critical, providing a foundation to gradually tackle risk while regaining skill. Noraly's months of rehabilitation, intense therapy, and repeated testing of abilities illustrated how recovery is both incremental and cumulative, with small improvements paving the way for larger milestones in both skill and mental fortitude. Even after initial medical clearance, lingering effects of injuries created ongoing challenges. How does a punctured lung and broken collarbone continue to affect performance months after surgery? Specialists noted that compromised lung function limits endurance, oxygen intake, and the ability to sustain high-intensity effort over long distances. Shoulder and chest injuries limit range of motion, strength, and control, all of which are critical in long-distance motorcycling. Recovery therefore required continuous attention, regular checkups, and adjustments to training to account for residual limitations, ensuring that the body could handle prolonged travel without risking re-injury. With this, we have come to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, do well to like, comment, and subscribe for more content. To enjoy more thrilling stories, click now on the following video that pops up on your screen.